Welcome, dear listeners, to the 50th episode of the Veterinary Business Podcast. Today, we are celebrating a significant milestone in our journey together, and I couldn't be more thrilled to share it with you. This episode is dedicated to honoring the commitment, hard work, and passion of the incredible veterinarians and veterinary professionals who devote their lives to caring for our beloved pets. I'm your host, Shelley, and it's an absolute privilege to bring you this very special episode. When Naren first started this podcast, his goal was clear: to create a space where we could dive deep into the fascinating world of veterinary medicine, offering a platform for experts to share their knowledge, experiences, and insights. Today, as we celebrate our 50th episode, we also take a moment to pay tribute to the extraordinary individuals who make the field of veterinary medicine what it is. Our topic today is exploring veterinary medicine, past, present, and future, honoring the dedication of veterinarians and veterinary professionals. We'll take a journey through time, reflecting through the rich history of veterinary medicine, discussing the present-day challenges and triumphs, and looking ahead to what the future holds for this vital profession. So whether you're a seasoned veterinary professional, a student aspiring to join this noble field, or simply someone who loves and cares for pets, this episode is for you. Let's dive into this tribute to the incredible men and women who ensure the health and well-being of pets across the globe. All right, everyone, let's give a warm welcome to our incredible panel of experts. We're absolutely thrilled to have Dr. Amanda Landis-Handa, Dr. Joel Parker, and Dr. Lori Teller join us today. Your expertise in veterinary medicine is truly inspiring. We can't wait to dive into the fascinating world of veterinary medicine with you, from its rich history to groundbreaking achievements and exciting future possibilities. Let's get started. Dr. Teller, as a clinical professor of telehealth at Texas A&M University College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, your work in veterinary education has been transformative. Can you share some key developments or innovations in veterinary education that you believe have made significant impact?
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about this. I think one of the greatest developments that's just come about in the past decade is our shift in teaching onto competencies. The competency-based veterinary education curricula really emphasizes that students are starting at the novice level, and they start their first year. Everything is integrated, lectures on animal care to actually hands-on labs. Building on what they've learned, they start with ultrasound probes their first year, first semester, in addition to your anatomy and physiology and those kinds of classes. And then each year builds on those, so that by the time you get to your clinical years, you're putting all of that together. And you have to master one competency before you can move on to the next one, so that by the time you graduate, you have developed a very robust skill set to go out and start treating patients upon graduation or entering your internship or whatever path you choose to take. And I really think that's going to make a big difference in our graduates feeling comfortable when they get out into practice. Of course, they need mentors. The emphasis on mentorship has been tremendous. That really helps people. We know the first year out of school is definitely the hardest. And so having a knowledgeable and compassionate mentor to help guide you through some of those stumbles, I think has also been really, really helpful. And we even provide that mentorship while students are still in school. My background in telehealth, of course, I think that's a tremendous innovation that has come to the profession. Again, over the past 8, 9, 10 years, of course, it's been around for a long time. Anybody who's had a telephone can do telemedicine. But in the more modern sense, it's really another way to improve access to care, help provide some context around work-life balance. People who are using it realize you really can help set boundaries when you're using telemedicine, particularly when you can start triaging patients appropriately. 3D printing. I mean, there's just so much going on. And we learn more every day, and it's an amazing opportunity for our students to be exposed to so many things during their education. Love it.
It sounds like that could be almost a subject for a podcast unto itself.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
really and truly it does. And I think that's something I'm going to put forward, honestly.
Okay.
Dr. Parker, with your expertise, you've been helping veterinary practice owners create successful practices since 2004. Can you explain how your approach helps practices organize and manage their workflows more effectively?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Shelley. Really enjoy being here again. And the whole approach that I developed over the years was to how to gamify the practice, the running of the practice, so that it remained fun but efficient. Some of the issues you get into is that many of us are very type A individuals. We suffer fools poorly. And if they're right, Amanda, right, Laurie, and when there are repeated mistakes, like we can all handle the odd screw up, but when there's a repeated wrong phone number on a message, phone message, just even simple little things like that, then we can start to get a little torqued out. And you'll find that if you can create a very, very good team within the practice, that they all know what each other's doing, and there's no drop balls, there's no mistakes, there's no bandages on the wrong foot, there's no red top tubes left in the centrifuge without a name on, just to name a couple of funny little things that create friction. What I call it, the friction within the practice, and the goal is to create this really fun game, friction-free practice. Then it's really fun, and I find that people don't burn out. People burn out because of successive disappointments and losses and kind of failures. And if things are going great and they're winning, the practice is profitable, you have great staff, the morale is high, morale is dependent upon the production and so forth, then you've got a really great practice. And that's basically what I created my practice, and what I've done over the last, bunch of years is to create that kind of legacy standing ovation practice that's really fun.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you touch on where you feel that technology enters that space?
Well, the way I see technology happening now is that anything that frees up people so that they can do more work with patients and interact with clients is a good thing. So you look at these scheduling apps, and you look at the apps like, Weave Communications, that allows people to text in prescription refills. That's really awesome, because it means you don't have to have a CSR, a customer service rep, or a receptionist picking up the phone and handling packages all come in, which frees up the time for the receptionist to be like the practice concierge, to be that front person that's very warm and greeting and so forth. Another thing I do is get the phones off the front desk, get them into the back, or, we've even had people space-wise put one of those little ATCO trailers in the back of the practice and put all the phone lines through there. But create it so that the people that are interacting with clients are really right there for them. They're really handling what they need.
Mm-hmm. And helping them in those really stressful moments as those moments are happening.
Yeah, some of them are very stressful. You bet.
Yeah,
You need somebody right there. You need somebody right there. You need somebody with, undivided attention. They're not getting interrupted by a phone, message, a phone, ringing and that kind of stuff. So,
of course. Thank you. Again, we've got another wonderful subject for a full hour.
Oh, yeah.
I suspect we're going to end up with 3 full subjects. Dr. Landis Hanna, you have a strong background in both veterinary medicine and mental health education. How do these learnings influence your approach to veterinary outreach and education? And what are the key benefits for both practitioners and pet owners?
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate your time this evening and appreciate the invitation, especially when I get to talk about 2 things I'm incredibly passionate about: veterinary medicine and mental health education. Many people don't realize the extreme levels of stress that various members of the veterinary team can endure over the course of an average day. There's highs, there's lows. Sometimes there's very dramatic lows and very dramatic highs. And that can create a situation where individuals working under stress and working in a highly pressurized container of a veterinary hospital can be put in some tough situations where they sometimes have to decide, what do I do in this moment? Do I do what I think is in the best interest for the pet, which is always our goal, or do I stop, take a deep breath, and do what's going to be in my best interest, which is just to reset myself a little bit so that I'm going into the next few moments in my best situation. It's very much like the metaphor with the oxygen mask. Sometimes it requires you to pause and put your own oxygen mask on before you're going to be able to make the most clear decisions for the benefit of the patient and truly the benefit of your team. So being able to take a step back and look at the overall health of the veterinary medical team and how that's going to positively impact the patients that you see is something that we don't always take a lot of time to do. We certainly hope that everyone is taking care of themselves, but it's been really great to see the rise of mental health advocacy in veterinary medicine over the last 5 to 10 years. As a very strong mental health advocate and someone who lectures on that particular range of topics, it's been really delightful for me to see a really large number of resources that have been coming out, as well as organizations to help provide camaraderie. So think about things like Moms with a DVM, that's a great organization, or support groups like Not One More Vet, NOMV. Those types of organizations help veterinarians and veterinary teams in their own right feel like they're not alone. That's going to improve patient outcomes every day of the week.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is there anything specific that you watch for within your staff, or that you suggest that people watch for that would trigger looking up one of the wonderful organizations that you referred?
I actually am very proactive in encouraging people to seek those resources out. You don't want to be looking for those resources in a time of stress or in a time of crisis. It's great
Right.
to connect with those types of organizations or even your own in-hospital support network prior to becoming stressed or overworked. The reason why is we all have lives outside of the hospital. Even if things are going perfectly well inside the hospital, there may be difficulties outside of the hospital that make an individual feel overwhelmed or sometimes even feel isolated, even in a very busy hospital. So I always encourage people to take the time to have an opportunity to check out things like meditation, check out apps like Breathe or Calm. Take the time to watch different videos. Funny cat videos every day can help cure many, many people.
That's very good advice. Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm going to switch over to Dr. Teller again. Dr. Teller, what are the biggest challenges you see veterinary students facing today, and how can the profession better support them? I know you spoke about mentors earlier.
Right.
I'm sure that has some influence, but I'd love to hear your take.
Absolutely. And I think mentorship is key. One of the things that a lot of people from my generation of practice sometimes forget is how rapidly knowledge doubles now. Back when I graduated from veterinary school, it was a couple of years, and now it's doubling in just a matter of weeks. And it's not realistic or even possible to keep up with everything that's put before you.
Yeah,
So
fair.
teaching students critical thinking skills and providing them with ways to find the information they need with while supporting them to recognize they don't have to have it all in their heads. They have to know how to find it. They need to be able to think critically so that they're at least going down the right path and accessing the right information. But it's really important to keep in mind you cannot know everything. There's just no way to keep up with that. That's another place where mentorship comes into play, because as Dr. Landis Hannah was saying, being able to take that deep breath and knowing when to take that deep breath and how to gather yourself so that you can help yourself and help the patients that are before you is going to be huge. And then we know student debt is a problem that's not going away anytime in the near future, for sure. Getting a good financial planner or financial advisor, even before you graduate from veterinary school, to help you make that plan moving forward. These are my options for paying off my debt. This is my best way of managing this and still be able to live, buy a house, have a family, go on a vacation, do those kinds of things. And what are my options when I'm looking for a job? And so if there's somebody that can help explain that to you, am I going to go work for a big national practice and maybe I get a great signing bonus? How do I manage that? Or maybe I'm going to go the more independent practice route and do that and look for a practice to buy. And people, and I know Dr. Parker knows a lot more about this, but people who buy practices do have a more rapid path to financial gain and paying off their debts. So learning how to manage debt, learning how to manage yourself. And then I think the third one, both the best and the worst part of veterinary medicine are people in general. People go into the veterinary profession thinking they're going to be taking care of animals, but so much of what we're doing is taking care of people. And those animals don't come in on their own. They don't have their own credit card. There's always a person attached to that animal, and learning how to manage expectations, how to exceed expectations when appropriate, have difficult conversations, and be successful on the other end of those. And that's whether it's your clients, the people on your team, any of those things. And so helping our students master the art of veterinary medicine is as important as helping them master the science of veterinary medicine.
I think that's extremely wise advice. Very, very good 3 touch points that you hit on there. I hope that we've got some students listening because that's some great takeaways. Dr. Parker, how have staffing and training practices in veterinary clinics evolved over the past 2 decades, and what strategies do you recommend to effectively manage those changes?
Yeah, I think it's evolved from initially somebody would show up and it was kind of baptism by fire. It was all monkey see, monkey do. I've shown you once, why aren't you doing it right? All that kind of stuff, where many times people, need 3 or 4 different, practice times and so forth of doing it. And again, back to the kind of team approach, if you look at team players, they all have different specialties. They all have different things they're good at doing. In fact, I really love that Albert Einstein quote that goes something like, if you try and teach a fish to climb a tree, they'll end up feeling really stupid and unvaluable and so forth. And I think that's really true in veterinary medicine. Lori, what you were saying, I've always felt it's been the perfect storm or the perfect dysfunctional family. We go to vet school because we like puppies and kittens. We got to work with these humans, right? The dogs that stood up per se, that have emotions and reactions and all that stuff. We're completely unprepared for that. So a lot of that is teaching people in their training how to communicate properly. There is science behind communication, how to not get triggered. If a team member does something, people can have bad days and all that kind of stuff. So training used to be kind of baptism by fire. That's kind of what it was like when I graduated. Lori, it's really great to hear, you're talking about by the time they graduate, they can do stuff. Now, I was always pretty good with my hands. I, was a junior chef and played music and all that. So surgery I did fine with. But thinking on your feet and all that is so valuable. So back to your original question, Shelley, training has gone from that now to establishing what's the playbook of the practice? Like, what is the best way to answer the phone? How many rings before you answer it? Or what is it that you do? You say hello, you always ask the client their name, you use their name, there's a lot of very basics you put into that. And then those manuals that playbook is used as training manuals. So we would start training people in a spare exam room. Large practices can use the lunchroom as a training room. And in there are manuals and there are things people read. And nowadays there's wonderful videos people watch. They're working off what's called a training check sheet, which is where they're, for example, read how to answer the phone, watch the video how to answer the phone, practice how to answer the phone. And once you practice it, put your hand up and go find your senior that they're off busy doing something else. Find your senior for a checkout. And the only 2 words the senior has to say, the biggest mistake young trainers will make on training other people is they start to talk too much. And they want to explain the whole thing, whereas they need to come up and just say, great, Shelley, show me. 2
Fair
words,
enough.
show me.
Yep.
And that if you can do it, you do it. That's great. And if you can't, then, I also believe that good trainers are amnesic. They can show that person how to set an appointment the day before, and they thought it, and they passed it out. And the next day, it's completely fallen out and they're screwing it up. So you have to be that very kind and compassionate person. I believe people are valuable. I believe I probably wrecked more people at the beginning by just improper training and not understanding that everybody trains different. I can learn stuff fast. I can learn stuff slow. Subjects are different. There's also the power of terminology. When you're training people, they must understand the words, the nomenclature that they're using. That's been shown in really interesting studies that if you are training clients in an exam room and you use words beyond their comprehension, there is a break in the communication cycle, and that moment, that light bulb moment of cognition, of understanding, doesn't occur. It's absolutely fascinating. So it's one of the kind of debugs we'll do when somebody's not getting with the program. You know, you're training them, but they're not getting with the program, they're not getting on. Is to go and check for words and things like that. It's absolutely fascinating. It's the most amazing thing. In fact, it was so much so that if we had clients that would come out of the exam room, we would check and see whether they would ask the front desk whether or not they needed further explanation. So, and that's just a little quality control cue that if your receptionists, your CSRs are being asked by the clients to explain things, then we, as the veterinarians in the exam room, have failed in our communication.
Right.
We failed to train that client. It's a really good quality control. And then that's really, then you go back and you like to say, okay, what words am I using? Because clients will nod their heads, won't they? Won't they, Lori and Amanda? Clients will nod their heads. You understand? Oh, yeah. But you have to check that understanding out. I remember a really cute story of a ER guy I was working with one time. He spent 45 minutes talking with an older couple about their 13-year-old Daxi with his intervertebral disc subluxation at T13L1, blah, 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 blah. And they were nodding their heads and, do you understand? Yep. And then at the end, they said, hey, Doc, can we ask a question? He thought he'd nailed this, right? And he said, sure, go ahead. And they go, hey, could this be a slip disc? And he realized that that moment of understanding had not occurred. Anyway, so I think there's a lot more, if it's done right, there's a lot more compassion and slowness. And what you were talking about there, Lori, on a gradient, you don't go past something if you don't get it. And then you go on to the next thing. And sometimes you got to go back and get it again. But eventually, you will craft that person that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Really and truly, it does. Well, that teamwork is so integral to running any business, and when you've got patients coming and going, and making sure that everybody understands what's going on is very integral.
Yeah, we got these things here called cell phones, which are really distracting. You come out of the exam room and there's nobody there to help you, like to the moon, right? And somebody's on their phone.
That does happen. Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Landis Hanna, with your background in presenting at various veterinary conventions and working with AVMA future leaders, how do you leverage your teamwork skills to inspire and engage others in collaborative efforts within the veterinary community?
I really appreciate the question. However, I feel very underqualified to answer the question, considering that I'm on with Lori and Joel right now. I think this in and of itself is a very collaborative podcast. So I'm excited to take the question, but certainly everyone always has their own concepts around things like teamwork, engagement, collaboration, outreach. From my perspective, again, I've been really lucky to somewhat have learned by fire, but also to have worked with groups like AVMA Future Leaders. And of course, everyone loves a good continuing education convention and conference, and being able to really leverage the relationships that I can create, whether it's one-on-one or myself with a group, whether that's in a hospital, from a lectern, whether that's working with new technologies, whether that's understanding things. I think that it's really valuable to put yourself in a variety of different positions every time you are working towards a new collaborative goal. As someone who is coming from a tech startup, it's important for me to understand what the perspective is of each of the team members that I'm working with, even if they're new to me and I'm new to them. Everyone has an angle, and that's not a bad thing. Everyone has their own lenses that they're working through. So being able to work with a team requires you to be able to take a step back, see the lens that you're looking through, and maybe shift that prism just a little bit to understand where, say, for instance, a particular teammate might be coming from on something that could be related to patient care or running the business. It's invaluable to work. Obviously, we're working with people all day, every day, but working with the new technologies to do things like streamline, free up more mental space for additional collaboration between veterinarians in a practice or between the hospital manager leading the team. those are going to be really great opportunities, not only for growth and the potential to learn more and share more and create better outcomes for our patients, but to do so, again, like Lori was saying, our patients, as well as our clients, as well as our teammates, are all human. No animals coming in without a person attached to them. So you're working with people. So taking a look through other people's lens and saying, okay, I can visualize where this person is coming from. Is it a terrified pet owner that's scared about bad news? Is it a veterinarian who is going through a tough divorce? Is it a veterinary technician that just found out that he didn't pass a particular class that he's taking for his continuing education? It can look like a lot of different things, but in order to be really collaborative and to be a really great teammate, you have to take the people into account and look at things through their individual lenses to see where you can be most supportive. But always keep in mind, the best way to be a good teammate is to take care of yourself and ensure that you are taking every opportunity so you're coming into the relationship in a healthy, grounded place. You don't want to be the weak link in the team if you can avoid it.
I absolutely love that you put the onus back on the person in collaboration to make sure that you're doing your part in collaboration, because the tendency is often to do the opposite. I really, really like that, Doctor. Doctor, I'm actually going to ask, because you said that it was a collaborative answer, I would really like to ask Dr. Teller and Dr. Parker if you have anything that you would like to add to the answer of that question, because I do think it's important. Without teamwork, we don't get anywhere.
No, teamwork, I mean, it's the only way to thrive in veterinary medicine. And that's true whether you're doing clinical work, industry work, even research. People think researchers are just sitting by themselves in labs, but there's a whole team to support that. And some of those people you may be directly working with. Some of those people may be stakeholders in the work that you're doing. So you're not necessarily in the same room with them or even the same building, but they have a definite interest in what you are doing and want to see you be successful in whatever that is. And it's really important to have that team. It's also, I think, important to understand each person's role in the team, particularly when you're trying to work together in a collaborative environment and not end up in conflict. If everybody understands their role, what their expectations are, and can be flexible, you also have to be able to adapt and roll with those changes, because nothing is ever the same day to day in veterinary medicine. But I know my rear end has been saved more than once by a brilliant technician or by my CSR or even by one of my veterinary colleagues. And I love that I can have that kind of relationship with the people that I work with. And it's so that we're building each other up, and all with the ultimate goal of helping that client and that patient or educating that student. So
You sound like an amazing person to work with, quite frankly.
thank you.
Dr. Parker, I'm going to flip it on its side a touch for you with the same question, except we already addressed a lot with collaborative teamwork in your previous question within the office. I'd like to switch the question up a little bit and ask you how you feel that the best way to collaborate within the community and your peers that are not necessarily in the same office with you.
You mean like the community,
like we are right now? We're all sitting and talking.
Of veterinarians, yeah.
Other doctors, other practice owners, yeah.
Yeah, the practice owners, yeah. That was always interesting, because you can get pretty isolated in practice where you think you're the only one there, and you had a client that leaves and goes to another practice, and there have been the rare incidences where you can get one practice owner that badmouths another, but by and large, like a lot of the stuff, that the secret of that is, put in more communication. And what we used to do is about once a quarter, we get together for a lunch. And there you get together with all these other practice owners, and everybody's all kind of shy and squirmy and uncomfortable. And then you realize that they're just people like you and I.
Yep.
And Amanda, kind of to touch on something, what you were talking about is that there can be all kinds of shit going on in people's lives. And I always loved what Robin Williams said is, be kind always. You have no idea what's going on in other people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good maxim to going in there and just trying to see things through their eyes, what they're going through, and realize that they're just like you, you know? they have a slow day. Like things have gotten quite slow. Amanda, I don't know if you were at that section of the Vet Partners Conference the other day, but it was very interesting looking at the overall global statistics of vaccine sales. And, we're a 5% growth industry every year. And in this first 6 months, we've grown by 0.3%, not 2.5, 0.3. So, and we took our little dog into our local veterinarian to get some microchips checked and so forth the other day. And he mentioned things were slow, but, and that he'd gotten together with another practice owner. So everybody goes through this and goes through these thoughts. The secret on that is to be very positive and as causative as you can be in your promotion for your practice, and keep in touch with other veterinarians. My practice was surrounded by 17 other practices, and one guy was 10 doors down the same side of the street, another guy around the corner. I used to call Neil Cropper, the guy 10 doors down, my worst competition, because he was a great guy and he practiced good medicine.
Those are the worst when somebody opens up shop and they're good. Oi.
They're good. Yeah. But, so the bottom line is that we're all there doing our best, right?
Yeah.
And the good news is there are things you can do to grow a practice and be, more causative over a downtrend in the economy than just sitting there. And that's the stuff I always love showing people to do. Get off the phones. Don't be calling your neighbors all the time. Just get busy doing X, Y, Z, and you'll see the practice. You will start to spark and come alive. Anyways, it's a good point. But I also ran in Vancouver. They had they had the Vancouver Academy of Veterinary Medicine, where we get together, I think, once a month for a nice dinner and bring a speaker in. Those are type things I think are really important as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from all three of you, I think there was a theme in that answer, and it's really truly to avoid isolation and make sure that you're doing your part, really. And not to overly simplify, but really wonderful answers. I appreciate it. I'm going to step into the future a little bit. Well, maybe not literally, but figuratively. Dr. Teller, how do you envision the future of veterinary education evolving over the next decade? Now, that's a hard one with AI and everything that's coming on board.
Yeah, but I'm pretty excited about it. And I think AI, of course, is going to be a piece of it. We're already incorporating it into some of the teachings that we do. I incorporate it into some of the lectures and what have you that I give. I think virtual reality is going to be a big piece of it as well. As classes get bigger and there are more schools available, there's still a finite number of resources available to use. And I think virtual reality allows us to expand that. And so we're already doing some of that in school too. And it's another great way to help students building on those competencies. If you can practice an endoscopy in virtual reality first before you go really have the opportunity to do that on an animal, or even learning how to palpate a cow or a horse, those kinds of things too. If you can do that on a VR model and then gradually step up to the real animal, that's going to relieve some of the pressure on the resources that we have. I think we're probably going to see also more centers of excellence. So not every school is going to be excellent at teaching everything, as much as, I come from a school where we're excellent at teaching everything. But I think there will be centers of excellence. And so if you are a student who really wants to focus on a certain area, whether that's marine animals or exotics, or Georgia has a great poultry program, swine, those kinds of things. There will be ways, I think there will be easier ways for students to move from schools to get the experience they need to focus on that area. I think we're still a little ways down the road from figuring out what this looks like. But at some point, there'll probably be a way to share faculty. So not only will there be centers of excellence, but you will have clinical experts or faculty experts or educators who may be teaching certain topics, but they can teach those topics at multiple schools. And obviously having ways to teach like on Zoom or virtual platforms helps a lot as well. And so these are things that are going to evolve. Veterinary medicine is not known for moving quickly. And those are things we have to work out because, again, especially when we're talking education, we do need to make sure that at the end we are graduating somebody who we trust to go work on animals and to protect our food supply and to protect public health and those kinds of things. But I think all of those are going to be a big piece of it.
Thank you very much. That's a great answer. Thank you. Dr. Parker, what advice, again, on the future theme, would you give to new veterinary practice owners who are just starting out and looking to build a successful and well-managed practice? And I think that the question here is identifying that new build as opposed to purchasing an existing.
Oh, like a brand new startup.
Yeah. I'm walking into Wichita, Kansas, and I'd like to open a practice tomorrow.
Yeah. I think the thing to do is to find somebody, create your team of people around you that have got data that you can make decisions on. My experience is that veterinarians can be really excellent business owners because you can apply that ability to look at subjective and objective data and make an assessment and a plan. That those rules apply to running your practice as well.
The type of personality required, right?
Pardon me?
The type A personality required.
Yeah. And if you can go and reach out to people and realize that there is a way, like a technology of running a practice, and go and find it, then you're going to survive much better than I initially did, thinking, that paydays every 2 weeks, you just show up and hope that people are coming in the door. That's a very, very effective position where you're not causing anything. You want to take a very causative approach when you're running a practice. And there's lots of opportunities to, either start up or buy an existing practice and then tune it up. Those are really big opportunities out there. But yeah, and we've done a lot of work with Bank of America on their startups. There's lots of money to start things up. Bank of America's got a good team. There's lots of vet partners on that whole group, Amanda, that we belong to, that, are accountants and managers and marketers and finance people like myself that can crunch numbers and get fees set properly and so forth, making sure that you can start, being into heading towards as profitable a position as you can within 6 months of opening, things like that. So, reach out. There is a way of doing it. So it's kind of like buying an airplane, I guess the odd person back in the day might go buy an airplane and figure it out, but most of us would go to school, right? And I use that analogy with a practice as well. There's a way of running a great practice. Signs of a not great practice is that it's struggling financially and the staff morale is down and everybody's working till 8 o'clock at night. All those kind of symptoms that things aren't right, and that's what'll burn you out, and that's what you want to avoid when you're new into practice.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And Dr. Landis-Hanna, what are the current key challenges and opportunities you see in veterinary outreach and improving access to care in today's veterinary landscape?
It's such a powerful question, and it, in some ways, is rapidly changing, and in other ways, it hasn't changed at all. I have been lucky enough to have worked with groups like PetSmart Charities and Heel House Call Veterinarian, who have individual ways of addressing outreach, who have individual aspects about how do you approach accessible veterinary care. I think a key component of it is really understanding the particular situation that the client and the patient are facing. There's many barriers to care. It could be transportation, it could be financial, it could be language barriers. And of course, each of those are going to have a variety of different options to help address that and help improve outreach to that particular client and patient. I think as the veterinary community has been looking at accessible veterinary care, there has been a significant amount of focus put on the financial barriers, because we have millions of animals, and with current financial states, we aren't always able to provide financially accessible veterinary care in every single situation. Every veterinary team member would if they could, but we still have to run businesses. We still have to make sure that our employees are getting paid as well. So coming at it from a place of compassion and a place of vulnerability and saying, okay, what would I do in this situation if this were me and my veterinarian or my human doctor were talking to me about this? How would I want it expressed? Also, how would I want to be held in empathy as we talk about what may be difficult decisions as we're talking about addressing barriers to care? So good examples of what that can look like, some of those key challenges are really understanding what the barrier is in the particular situation. So say where we have a transportation barrier. It might be someone who doesn't have a vehicle or has difficulty using public transit. Well, you can utilize technologies. Obviously, I'm happy to give a plug for my technology, but you can utilize a variety of different veterinary technologies to gather data at home. And then, as Lori was saying, utilize telecommunications and telemedicine and talk to the veterinarian and talk to the client and see how things are going at home, so that maybe small adjustments at home can be made rather than feel like you have to try and overcome a transportation barrier every single time. There are a variety of opportunities for financial barriers to care as well. For veterinarians, here at Veterinary Innovation Summit was just announced the Veterinary Access Hub. And that came out from the Veterinary Innovation Council. And that has a variety of different resources that are available to veterinarians to then provide to their clients in order to help provide additional support for financial barriers. Now, that may look like things like payment plans, that may look like things like care credit cards or crowdsourcing funding in order to pay for care. There's also access to grants. One of the best grants that I know about comes from Red Rover, which can be found at redrover.org. And it's a financial contingency grant where a particular patient needs one type of treatment, say a surgical treatment or one expensive medical treatment. And the client can receive a grant to help pay for that treatment. Is it available to everyone all the time? No, unfortunately not. There's limitations. However, are there resources that clients may not be aware of? And even more, are there resources that veterinarians may not be aware of? Absolutely. We also have really cool programs like Colorado State University's program for Spanish for veterinarians, which is helping to train veterinarians in a variety of different settings to be able to really harness the Spanish language to address the needs of a variety of different clients. You can also think about other types of barriers, whether that's, say, for instance, an elderly person who has a variety of these barriers all wrapped up into one. So there may be a transportation barrier, a language barrier, and a financial barrier all at the same time. That may be a situation where the veterinarian can get a little bit creative, or the veterinary team can really flex their muscles. Maybe that's a mobile service. There's certainly great mobile services out that allow for the veterinarian to come and provide service in the home for individuals at the level that they need. And so being willing to get creative and being willing to say, you know what, I don't know what all is out there. I'm going to take some time and I'm going to investigate that, whether it's a CSR, a hospital manager, a regional manager, and certainly the veterinarians. They can take the time. And again, now that we have resources like this that help to pull together all of this amazing information, it streamlines that process so much more, so that as we're facing some of these current and undoubtedly new coming challenges for accessible veterinary care, we can be there to meet it.
That's absolutely amazing. By all means, please do plug your technology.
Okay, so my technology is a product called Voice, Voice. It's coming to market in early 2025, and it's really great for accessible veterinary care because it provides remote monitoring for heart rate, respiratory rate, heart rate variability, and here's the kicker, blood pressure. I don't even have to fully touch a patient. It doesn't have to have skin contact for me to gather that data and translate it back to a veterinarian. So now we have access to blood pressure, which is a vital that unfortunately can be quite difficult, quite cumbersome to perform in veterinary practices. And now we're able to provide that easily in less than a minute We can send home the technology with pet parents and be able to gather that information at home in a stress-free, fear-free, calm, natural environment. So we don't get artificial alterations in heart rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. I think the future for this technology, which of course I'm partial to, but all technologies is really great, whether it's wearables, whether it's ways to interface with the veterinarian and veterinary team. And of course, Lori and I can talk telemedicine all day long until we're blue in the face. Taking advantage and really leveraging these opportunities are not only beneficial to the pet parent and to the patient, but really, let's talk about the benefit to the veterinary team. This is new data. These are new outcomes. You can intersect in a much more rapid way to improve overall health outcomes, save money because you're diagnosing problems sooner, but also be able to monitor, how is a treatment really working? Do I need to alter the treatment plan instead of making a client make all of the visuals? We now have objective data to back that up. So I think from the perspective of improving mental health for the veterinarian who gets frustrated and tired of having to guess and understand, to being able to improve the opportunity for the human-animal bond. That bond is going to be enhanced when people are really able to focus on how can I best help you? Whatever my financial situation, whatever my emotional and mental situation are, whatever that home life looks like, let me help you have a better quality of life, and let me as a veterinarian help improve your human-animal bond. That's going to improve overall outcomes for the practice as well. Like Joel was saying, you want to bond people. You want people to understand that you are the resource, that guide, that informative resource that can help to provide them with that information. So leveraging technology that's coming, whether you're ready for it or not, leveraging technology, leveraging natural human language, leveraging empathy, leveraging vulnerability, leveraging education, we're all going to be so much better for it. We're going to save lives, we're going to save dollars, and we're going to save the human-animal bond by taking these gentle steps together.
That sounds super amazing. It really does. Dr. Parker, I'm going to give you 60 seconds, a quick 60. I know that you've got a business that is involved in practice management. Do you want to give it a plug as well?
I'm kind of changing things at the moment. I'm going more into what I see as a real need, which is teaching veterinary practice owners how to look at the health of their practice.
Perfect.
And really, I'm going into a new company called Parker Business Systems, where we are looking at the diagnosis and tune-up and repair of a practice. In many cases, getting it ready for sale. I think that's one of the things that I've seen over and over again as practitioners get into their 60s and 70s, and they're almost running out of time, and they need that practice for retirement. They need that extra $1 million, and it's just not there. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to start doing.
That's amazing. Do that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So kind of more of a boutique or a concierge style of practice consulting.
At the end of the day, owning a practice makes you an entrepreneur, and very few entrepreneurs think about the end game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Dr. Teller, this is the first time you joined this podcast. Thank you very, very much for your time today. We really, really hope to be seeing you again and having some more wonderful conversations. I'd like to ask if there's anything that you'd like to bring up in our closing.
Sure. I would be remiss. We talked about teamwork and mentorship and access to care. I mean, so many amazing things. But I could see where a listener would be like, how do I find all of this stuff?
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming amount of stuff. And so I am partial, as a past president of the Texas Veterinary Medical Association and the American Veterinary Medical Association. Amazing resources from both of those organizations, or whatever state you're from, your state organization. But go get involved in those. They have committees, councils, CE, all of these things.
Not going to come to you.
Yes. Where you can find something that you believe in, that you want to contribute to, that you're passionate about. The networking opportunities are amazing. So you can find somebody that can mentor you, whether you're looking into practice ownership, looking for better ways to provide access to care. I'm going to give a plug to AVMF's REACH program. There are just so many opportunities, but you do have to put yourself out there and take that first step. But once you take that first step, you will have so many opportunities coming at you, and really just an amazing way to enhance your experience as a veterinarian and really bring joy to what you do every day and to your role in the profession. So find your spot in an organization related to the profession. You will get back so much more than what you have put into it.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, everyone. As we conclude this milestone 50th episode, we want to express our sincere gratitude to all of you for your support. Your support is what motivates us to provide top-notch veterinary business content. A huge thank you to our co-hosts and guest speakers for their priceless insights, to all the veterinarians and veterinary professionals out there for your unwavering dedication is truly inspirational. Thank you very much to Dr. Joel Parker, Dr. Landis Hanna, and Dr. Lori Teller for taking the time to join us. We genuinely appreciate it and are very happy that you've been here with us. I wish everyone an amazing week ahead. Until next time, thank you very much.